And welcome back to the Nourisher Podcast. I am your host, Kaylor. And before we get into today's conversation, I just wanted to talk to you for a minute about the podcast. So this podcast started as something pretty small, which were just conversations I used to have over coffee or happy hour with friends who needed to be heard and needed to also hear that they weren't alone. And somewhere along the way, it became so much more than that. It became a space that we built together, streamed in 58 countries and territories, over 478 cities, with more than 200 subscribers and almost 17,000 plays over the course of a year and a half. I have poured my whole heart into the show, every episode, every guest, all of the late night editing. It has truly been a labor of love. But life has been changing a lot for me lately and actually over the course of the last couple of years. And if I'm honest, keeping this podcast the priority it deserves has gotten to be harder than I know how to make it work right now. So I wanted to tell you myself before anything else that this is going to be my last episode for a while. It might be for good. I don't fully know yet. What I do know is I didn't want to just completely disappear on you because this has been a great community and I feel like you deserve better than that. So I'm choosing to think of this less as a goodbye and more as a see you later. And maybe that looks like me coming back someday. Maybe it looks like the show finding new hands to carry it forward. Maybe someone who can pour into it the way that it absolutely deserves. I just don't know yet, but I wanted the door open because this community means so much to me and so much to a lot of other people. And I can't think of a better way to go out for now than with today's guest. Jennifer Soto is a family nurse practitioner and the founder of Generation Wellness right here in Amarillo. She spent over 20 years helping women understand their bodies, especially when it comes to hormones, which is something so many of us were never really taught about ever. We talk about the gap so many women fell into around hormone therapy, why health is so much bigger than weight and exercise, and why she named her practice for the generation it's meant to touch. This is such a good episode, so I'm glad that you're here with me today. I can't wait for you to hear it. Hello, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us on the Nourisher Podcast today. How are you?
I'm so well. Thank you so much. I'm so thankful to be here.
Absolutely. I follow you on Instagram and I've seen what you've been doing and having a hormonal journey myself, like as far as my health and wellness goes, it was really of interest to me. And so I was very excited to get the opportunity to have you on the show to really talk about the work that you're doing in Amarillo, but also why it's so important for us to know some of these things that we don't get told very often.
Yes, no, I'm excited to be here. I love talking about these topics about women's health and perimenopause and menopause. This is fun stuff.
All right. Well, before we get into all the things hormones, I want to start with you. You have built something really special here in Amarillo with Generation Wellness. So what is the story behind your business?
I have always enjoyed health in my personal life, like trying to be healthier, doing things that I can do that I know will benefit me, whether that be exercise. I mean, I remember always since being like a child trying to eat differently, trying to figure it out what makes me feel better, what didn't make me feel good. But I would say that my background is in oncology and taking care of women with breast cancer and then just other patients who had different cancers that I really learned to respect health so much that it was a passion of mine to help people live better and longer with good health. And personally, as a mom, like I always felt it was a responsibility of mine to teach my children to be an example of health so that they can be healthy. And the scriptures, found so many scriptures in the Bible that talks about how this generation will affect other generations. And so that's why I named my business Generation Wellness for that reason, is that I want that responsibility. As women, women make 80% of medical decisions. And so we are the gatekeeper, not just to our children, but our spouses and our friends. Like there's so much influence we have that I really I named my business Generation Wellness for that reason. Like we can influence our generation that we're within. We can help the generation that's after us, and we can learn so much from the generation that was ahead of us.
I'm so glad you touched on that, because that was going to be my next question, is where the name came from. But I love that. I love that connection. And you're right. I think so many of us think health. And right now with, social media and marketing and things, we think of health as being weight. So, we associate it with weight and exercise, but there's so many factors that go into your health, especially hormone health. And so I love that you are actually specializing in that, because it is very rare to find somebody that will dive into that hormone health with you. Recently, I just went and did an introduction type appointment. I was having some really horrible stomach problems, and I know I have hormone issues. And then the first thing that they wanted to do was do a colonoscopy. And I was just like, whoa, that seems like a very drastic procedure when I just came in here and talked to you for the very first time.
Yeah. And it can be that. Like lots of times you want to know what the root cause is, but you also want someone to sit with you, explain things to you, figure out what you're comfortable with starting first with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know just from your bio and looking at your website, you have been in patient care for over 20 years. Is that right?
Yes.
And what did you see happening to women specifically in our area that made you think that somebody really needs to fill this gap?
One of the reasons is, as we now know, there's been a lot more information on the news about now the FDA has lifted that hormone replacement therapy or estrogen doesn't increase the risk of cancer. But for 2 decades, that was being told to women. And for so many women, those decades were taken off hormones or not even given the opportunity to have hormones, that now there's this huge gap that's occurred where women have not been able to receive treatment, hormone treatment, or been educated on it, or been able to have that option. And so many providers are not familiar now with prescribing hormones because they hadn't done it for so long, knowing that the FDA had put the black box warning that there is a risk associated with cancer. So I think that's one of the reasons that a gap need to be filled, and one that there was fear-based about hormone therapy. And then there's also a gap where providers are not comfortable now prescribing it due to the harm that they were afraid to cause to women.
See, and I'm like, how would I ever even know these things unless my doctor tells me?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And I think women, I have had some women patients that have been with me for years, but had told me that they had to fight for their prescription for so many years that they were like, I know what you're telling me. I know you're telling me I'm going to increase my risk, but this life that I'm living isn't worth living without hormones. So will you please write me the prescription? And so there are some of those women who I have in my practice now that have told me, like, I remember where it was like taboo and I had to like, no, please, I need someone to prescribe it, and almost beg somebody. And then I also have those patients who were saying, well, I was told I can't be on hormone therapy. How are you telling me today I can be on hormone therapy? And hormone therapy isn't risk-free. It's always risk versus benefit. I tell patients all the time, I'm not going to make your decision. I'm going to educate you. And I'm going to look at your coexisting, the risk factors that you do have or don't have, and go through those with you. And we decide together. You decide, I help you with the information for you to make a decision, because nothing's risk-free.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of those commercials where it's like, this is for your depression, but it might cause death. It's just the way that it goes whenever we're trying to heal something.
That's true. Yes.
Okay, well, let's start with the basics. I think a lot of women don't honestly know what hormonal health even means beyond, like you said, estrogen, or even just periods in general. So what are we actually talking about when we are talking about hormones?
I think it depends on where you're going. I think hormone health can be just whether you need estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone. I think when we talk about hormones, those are the ones we are mainly discussing. But my focus in a wellness clinic is some sexual hormones, yes, but also all the other hormones like vitamin D is a hormone. Thyroid, insulin levels. I want to look at metabolic health and help it that way because hormones don't act alone. They're like a family. If you're messing with one, you're messing with another. One of the illustrations I give is, let's say you're listening to a symphony and it's beautiful and they're all talented, but there's one squeaker. Like all you pay attention to is that squeaker. And so that happens in our bodies as well. Like there can be so many good things that are going on and working well for us, but there's one that's way off. Everything's being affected by that. And I think that's one of the things that I for sure try to do in our clinic is look at cortisol levels, cholesterol, thyroid, look at all of them at a whole. And I don't think I'm not going to start everything at one time, but first what we want to start with and where do we go from there and what we make goals along the way and what first is the priority of you coming to see me and then how we keep changing things and improving things. But it's not, I wish it was a quick fix. I always tell patients like, I'm going to start today and you may follow up with me in the next couple of months and not feel a whole lot better. But what you feel like then or what has improved and what hasn't improved will tell me what to do next.
Sure. And I just feel like the body is just basically a huge puzzle because there's so many
complicated
pieces. Yeah. There's so many pieces that make up, what we are and who we are and how we function. And so, yeah, sometimes it is a trial and error, but something very, very important that you touched on is it's not going to be a quick fix. And that's something that unfortunately, I think a lot of people are looking for.
And I think that's hard on my end. Like I want everything better when you come back to see me and it's like, well, oh, we're not there. But it's like, okay, I want to give hope. At that point, I'm going to give hope. That not that I know it, not exactly what to do, but that's how we figure out what to do is not always getting it right. It's trial by error. But I love it when it's been some time and it's like finally that appointment where it feels like magic happened, like things are better. And there are those patients that are quick responders and it was just, they just need a little tweaking and they feel better. But usually when patients come see me, they've been trying to get help. And I know that it may take us a little bit to get where we want to be. And I just always want to keep patients hopeful because they deserve that.
What is the biggest myth or misconception that you keep seeing your patients carry in the door with them? Like something that you kind of have to rewire in our brain over and over again when we first come to see you?
I would have to say shame. That is probably something I'm always having to help patients with because, like I said, patients have usually tried to get help before coming to see me and they're kind of at this place that, I don't know how many times a patient has told me before they leave, I'm just so glad you didn't tell me or make me feel like I was crazy. I just had a patient last week that I was looking at all her symptoms and she says, and I knew she knew what I was looking at, but I hadn't said anything to her. She goes, I know it's a lot. You're probably not gonna be able to help me. Or that I have all these problems. I'm sorry. Why are you sorry that you have symptoms? Like, it's okay that you have symptoms. And I don't tell them, why are you sorry? But that's what I know that they're shameful of not feeling well.
And I agree with you. I think when we finally find a person or a provider who actually makes us feel heard, that's a huge first step. I know I've had that problem searching over and over just for like an OB-GYN. And I know the first time that I felt valued and heard and somebody told me what they told you is correct. And I'm so sorry that it made you feel that certain way and that it disappointed you. But let's talk about how we gain hope, like you said. So I think that's crazy that so many of us, I think as women, we like to apologize all the time anyway.
I know. And I think that's what I'm saying. Like they want to be sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry. Let's work on things, but it's not your fault. They almost feel like something they did was wrong or they caused something. And I'm like, it's your body's not failing you either. It's just we need to figure some things out and we need to start again.
And I feel like we get told a lot that maybe our fatigue, brain fog, mood swings, weight that's just not coming off, it's just a part of life or part of getting older. How do you respond to those remarks? Like, where does that narrative come from, and why is it something that we get told over and over?
Yes, we are getting older, and no, we don't have to feel bad as we get older and age. That we can age and still have a good quality of life. In menopause, we live a third of our life still. And with that, we do want to feel well. We want to reduce the risk of diseases. We don't want to get older, not necessarily not just feel bad, but increase the risk of diabetes, heart disease, all those things that we can work on. Some of it can be inevitable, but if it's lifestyle choices, I read recently that heart disease, 80% of it can be helped with lifestyle choices that we make. And so that's a big number, but it is being educated and helping patients educate patients on how they can reduce the risk of heart disease. And the fatigue is part of that. Some patients are surprised with how much time I spend with them discussing their metabolic health, because that also is what causes fatigue, is a high insulin level that we need to reduce, that also makes them feel tired. It's an inflammatory hormone, so it causes weight gain. And the way I would respond is that we need to dig into where's your metabolic health at today, and what we do to get away from that, or how do we reduce your insulin level to help you feel better. Yes, the other hormones matter too, but that's the foundation to reducing our risk of diseases. And I recently heard a patient the other day in clinic told me that she had gone to her primary care and told them, I don't feel like myself. Am I in menopause? Because she had an ablation. She's no longer bleeding, but she doesn't feel well. And she's in her early 50s. And she's like, can I have labs done? And they said, no, in a few years you can have labs done, but you probably aren't in menopause. And she's asked, well, how would you know if we don't do labs? She goes, I just know you're not in menopause right now. And she was also told she was the healthiest patient they saw today. And more or less, she should be grateful.
Oh, you're like, well, that doesn't change the fact that I'm in pain, but okay.
Yeah. And that, you're the healthiest person I've seen. And so she's left there going, I guess I should just be grateful, but I don't feel well. And I think that's part of why they are like, am I tired? Does it really matter to anybody that I'm tired? I don't feel well, but is it going to make a difference if I do get labs done?
Yeah. Oh, that breaks my heart for her, but I'm glad that she has you now.
Yes. I just think that we aren't educated on, as providers, how to manage hormones. And so it's just a gap. Like, it's that huge gap right now that as a nation, we're going to have to work through for a while.
Are there maybe some things that feel related to our emotions or relational, but they actually have like a physical root cause that has something to do with the work that you do, but specifically with hormones? Like, can it be causing us mood swings? It could actually have a physical root cause. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So the irritability or the feeling on edge, moody, PMS, whatever label the person has for it, it could be the hormone progesterone. Progesterone's our calming hormone. It's a feel-good hormone. We start losing that in our mid-30s. Typically, we'll start losing it in our mid-30s. Now, we don't necessarily always feel those symptoms until our early 40s, but I have some early 30-year-olds feeling it. We have like an average. All of us, we can give averages to ages to these hormones and the decline of hormones, but there's always those outliers, right? But that hormone is the feel-good hormone. And when we start losing that, we can look back and think, man, I used to handle life better than this. I feel edgy, or things set me off that didn't used to set me off. Now I don't feel in control of my emotions. So it could be progesterone. For a lot of times, it is that.
That's a really good thing to remember whenever I just decide that I'm going to be like, whenever people are like, why are you so moody? And I'm just like, ugh, I guess it's because I'm getting older. I don't know. And it is, I guess technically it is because my progesterone levels are decreasing, right?
Yeah, that's right. It is part of our aging process, but we don't have to settle for feeling that way.
I love that. Well, and that brings me to the connection between hormonal imbalance and mental health, because, when all of these things start happening within our body, I know a lot of women who have just automatically been put on antidepressants without anyone ever checking their hormones, just because they're describing these things that are happening in their body or emotionally. And that seems to be a first step for a lot of people. And I don't totally understand that. So can you talk about really that connection between what happens when we have a hormonal imbalance? What's going on with our mental health in that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it could be some progesterone like we talked about, but it also could be some testosterone and even estradiol. So all three of them really help us stay in our moods and our abilities to process well in our brain, because brain fog's another big complaint too. And the anxiety, I've had women who stopped leaving their home. I've had women who stopped having their family come by just because it would just increase their anxiety. And so it does change a person's quality of life when they're feeling depressed and moody and anxious. And it can be unfamiliar to some, but also it could be that it increases. They always had a little underlying and now it's just a lot more. And so I would say maybe an SSRI is okay for some women, or maybe need a higher dose sometimes at this age. But more importantly, before we increase the dose or start them on an antidepressant, let's see if what their symptoms are related to their hormones. We could have so many more women not taking antidepressants, because a lot of times my women who are my patients that are already on antidepressants, one of their goals is to come off of it, and they want to come off of it. They just don't know how to start. And it's not it's not necessarily easy, but I tell patients, let's first start managing your hormones. Let's help you feel better. And then we can discuss with your primary care taking you off an antidepressant. But I feel like it is being used a lot through this age. But you remember, we had this time where we weren't giving women the option for hormones. We were putting them on SSRI so they could keep doing their day to day. Now I hope that shift will stop, where we're not just prescribing them an antidepressant, but that we are able to dive into their hormone health, like primary cares and OBGYNs and endocrinologists and providers like myself who are specializing in hormones can give women different options before putting them on an antidepressant.
Yeah. And earlier you had mentioned something about energy and focus. And I know that's something that a lot of us will start to notice. I'm not as focused. I'm losing track of time. I'm losing track of my calendar. How would we even know if what we are experiencing is hormonal versus just life?
I think for many of us, it's both. I think it is life, and I think it is our hormones. So one of the another illustration I give in clinic is when we need some hormone management. It's like the LA highway that's fast paced called life, that if you're running into it, getting ran over, and you feel every time you turn around, there's something coming at you, right? I feel like when our hormones aren't where we need them to be, it's like you're walking on the curb to an LA highway where you're just putting one foot in front of another and you just keep falling into life. But when hormones are balanced, the craziness of life is still going on. That highway that will get you is still there. But when your hormones are better balanced, or you have some hormone replacement that's needed, then it's like you got a big wide sidewalk that you can step here, you can step there, side to side, without feeling like life's taking you down. And so I think that's with mental fog. I think that's with relationships. I think that's with energy for your family to make decisions in life. Most of us live pretty hectic, busy lives. We're overcommitted to things. So I don't think it can just be hormones, but I think it's both life and hormone management. And if we can get our hormones managed better, maybe we can look at our life and decide what our yeses are to and what our nos are to, because I think we do need some of that in life. And I know for myself, I'm always struggling with that as well.
Your illustrations are helping me a lot, just understanding the life in general. So I very much appreciate it. I know someone is listening and they're like, oh, I get it now.
Good. I hope I'm helping some.
Okay, Jennifer, let's move to perimenopause. I feel like it's this word that people have started saying more, but most women still don't really know what it actually means. I know I'm 33, so I'm starting to hear more and more of my friend group talk about perimenopause, and I'm like terrified, but also totally confused. So can you define perimenopause for us, especially when it comes to timing?
Perimenopause is the 7 to 10 years prior to going into menopause. Menopause is actually 1 day a year from your last period. And the average age of menopause is 51 and a half. So if we're doing plus or minus 10 years from that, and then perimenopause is 7 to 10 years prior to that, that means some women could be having perimenopausal symptoms in their early mid 30s, and some will not experience them until their 40s or in their mid 40s. Actually, what's happening in perimenopause is that you're losing your progesterone and you're losing testosterone. Most of us will lose testosterone around the same time of losing some progesterone. And then estrogen's your fiery hormone. Testosterone and estrogen and progesterone all help in sexual health as well. But estradiol or estrogen in our bodies is the hormone that kind of gets us revved up, and estrogen gets volatile right in perimenopause. It'll be high, it'll be low, it'll be high, it'll be low. And that's where the emotional instability that women experience is from estrogen going up and down as you're losing your progesterone. Prior to perimenopause, estrogen and progesterone are like each other's best friend. If one goes up, the other one goes up. One goes down, they just kind of follow life together. And in perimenopause, you start losing your calming hormone and your fiery hormone starts to get volatile. And so at times when you're on your cycle, you have the least amount of estrogen and you don't have a lot of progesterone as you're getting older. So they're kind of comfortable again together. And then estrogen starts to build, and perimenopause is starting to build, but it's getting volatile. And so at times when you're not replacing your progesterone, and not everyone's this sensitive to it, but a lot of us can be. You have less progesterone and you have a lot of estrogen at different times of the month. That's that big gap between the two is when you don't feel well emotionally, maybe even physically for some.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of like now reminding me that everybody tells you when you hit 30, your body, it just revolts. It's like, we are no longer working the way that we are supposed to. No thanks.
But there's things we can do to help.
So true. So true. Do you feel like there's a certain reason why we aren't necessarily prepared for this transition in the way that we prepare for, let's say, puberty or even menopause? Because I think, menopause and puberty are the two transitional times in a woman's health journey or in our life where people talk about puberty. They tell us what to expect. And then we hear about menopause and they tell us what to expect. But perimenopause specifically, why are we not as prepared for that transition?
I think it's because it's not something we've been treating women for. Because again, we were settling with, okay, I'm just going to feel like crap until I don't have any hormones, and then you'll replace my hormones or tell me what my risks are to replace my hormones. I feel like we haven't in medicine been treating women for their perimenopause. That's when they were put on birth control or an antidepressant versus replacing hormone therapy. And then this is evolving. And even a few years ago, I wasn't replacing estrogen until I could declare someone was in menopause. In the last couple of years, I've been giving women that are really close to menopause a low dose amount of estradiol to give them some kind of basal amount of estrogen. Even though it's going crazy up and down, at least it's not as low. The low point isn't as low as they're experiencing today without replacement. And so I think we're just continuously getting better at what we're doing with hormone management. But prior to now, that's how come now women are like, I'm in perimenopause. Someone's going to do something about it now. For so many years, they didn't know what to call it. It was just like, I was having cycles. Now they're getting crazy. And then one day I'm not going to have cycles.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense because once we get treated for something, then we start talking about it. So that correlation makes a lot of sense now because, if we weren't treating it for the longest time, no one was talking about it.
And I think also like when like you said, puberty occurs, if we are young then and we're not going to remember a whole lot, but it takes years to regulate our cycle from starting our cycle. And it takes years because like towards the end, very close to the end of perimenopause before you go into menopause, cycles get heavy. They get back to back. They get spread out. Like they're just everywhere. And it's very concerning because you don't feel well in it. But from puberty to a normal cycle can take years, where you're having a cycle every 28 days or whatever your rhythm is. It takes a few years for that to happen. To dysregulate and get to menopause, the same thing's occurring, where cycles are changing and they're fluctuating and you don't know what the day's going to bring or the next day's going to bring. That is what happens when we come out and go into menopause.
Do you feel like there's any value in doing some, maybe visiting like Generation Wellness in conjunction with like our regular OB-GYN care?
Sure. So I see that a lot. I have patients that have an OBGYN and have a primary care, and I want them to continue to see those physicians because they're providing their care. I'm a cash-based office, so I'm not charging insurance. So I'm fortunate that I get to spend time with patients. So patients who come see me, I'm not replacing their OBGYN. I'm really just there to help their hormones. And again, I'm not just focusing on sexual hormones. I'm going to also look at metabolic health and keeping them. My goal always is to prevent diseases, or even if someone's pre-diabetic or diabetic, help them to get healthier to where they're not diabetic anymore. And so that's my goal is prevention and hormone management to help prevent disease. They still want to continue with their other physicians that they see.
Absolutely. I feel like it would just be really helpful to be able to take, the work that a patient might do with your clinic and take that information into their OB-GYN and say, hey, I had this panel done and I had all of these things tested and I want to talk about how this is affecting my ability to conceive, or, I think that would be really helpful. The more you know is always better. And I feel like as patients, sometimes we are just so, like you said, we're not educated on what some of these things mean and how it affects one thing or the other.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should all work together and with the patient really advocating for themselves I like my patients to be prepared. I explain to them, I want you to give me as much information as you want and tell me what symptoms, when is it worse, what time of the month is it worse. And sometimes when they come see me, they don't know that. But for their follow-up visit, hey, I want you to document for yourself in the notes of your phone, because we always have our phones with us. If we write on a piece of paper, sometimes we won't remember to bring it with us. So I'm like, put in the notes of your phone. On this day, I was miserably upset, or I was anxious all day, or I had a cycle twice this last month, or something like that. I want that document, because then you come to see me, I'm asking all these questions and you forget what you were going to come and address with me. So I like for them to have preparation for their visit with me. And I tell them, do that for your other providers too. Come in with the information so that way you can have more of an effective visit, especially if it may be timed you don't have as long with them as you do with me. Go in prepared for your visit so I need their help just as much as you need their help.
Is there something specifically about perimenopause that you wish every woman in her 30s and 40s knew? Like if you could put an ad out there, like some kind of billboard, and it had one message, what is it that you would want us to know?
Trust yourself. You've been in your body this long. You know yourself. And it's time to trust yourself. Whether if you don't feel good, you don't feel good. If something's off, something is off. And if I could have like a subtitle, it'd be get the help you deserve. Trust yourself, get the help you deserve. Because we need that. We need to feel the support. We have to have health to make good decisions in life. It affects everything. Like I tell patients that come for weight loss, if I can help you with your metabolic health, if I can help you lose weight, if I can help you gain some control over your thoughts and emotions around food, you're going to go home and it's going to affect your husband or your spouse, like a wife. It's going to affect your children. It's going to affect their children. That's part of Generation Wellness. What we learn today, it's our responsibility to go and help others and spread the word, whether it be about our health, whether it be about our journey in life, our occupation, whatever it be. Like let us go out there and spread and help others. And that's one thing I would say is to trust yourself and get the help you deserve.
I love that so much. I feel like it's so easy for us to be like, well, I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to school for this. I don't know. And then just forget about it, you know?
I know. And that's why I say go in with some confidence, have some information so you can say, on last month I experienced this, the month before I experienced this. I know that this has continued to happen and occur. What do I do from here?
Yes. Okay. Jennifer, please tell us how we can find out more about Generation Wellness and how someone could start working with you.
So we have a website. It's genwellamarillo.com. We do have social media. I try to post information, some education there, and you can reference some of that. Of course, we have a phone number. You're welcome to call us anytime. We're open Tuesday through Friday.
I love to wrap up the podcast with 2 questions for every guest. So are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. The first one is, what is one thing that most people may not know about you?
Oh, I do not like scary movies.
You don't?
I will not watch a scary movie.
Is it just like all scary movies? You don't like the jumping, or is it the gore? Like, what about it is that you can't stand?
The intensity. I want to sit down and watch television and be calm. Oh, and I was a runner for so many years, and I ran at 4:30 and 5 a.m. in the morning. And at first I thought, I don't watch scary movies because I don't want to be running past an alley and think something's going to come out at me. But I really think I just don't like the intensity of things.
Okay. That's very true. I will tell you, I watch a lot of true crime stuff, and then I watch a lot of scary movies. So if I'm ever in a parking lot in the dark by myself, you better believe I'm like, my head is on a swivel. My keys are in between my fingers. Like, I know exactly what to look for and when someone looks suspicious. So it's either a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm probably always paranoid because of it.
Well, and I was raised by a Pentecostal cop. And so,
okay.
So that's one reason I couldn't watch scary movies either. But, he's a homicide investigator. That was in our, so I don't watch true crimes though.
Yeah, you don't need any more of that in your life. You do. You need more calm and more peaceful. Okay, second question is, who are 3 women who inspire you?
I have a sweet spiritual mom that is in her 70s, and she's the one lady that can just tell me how it is, and she knows me. She knows me without me even opening my mouth. She knows what I'm going through in life. So I would say she's influenced to me. I admire her in all ways, and especially as a wife and a mom and a Christian woman. So I would say, her name's Tila Malco. So I would say Tila. I would say, my aunt was very giving and sweet and was the salt of the earth. And it was good to have that in life. And then I would say Jackie Kennedy. Like, there's some poise about her and some class. So just the class that she carried. I just always admired that if I could dress like her every day, I would.
I appreciate you, Jennifer, for sharing all of your knowledge and your information with us. I know that you're going to provide a lot of value to the listeners, but maybe even getting us to start the conversation with our primary care doctors or with you, whoever that is, just being able to empower us with the information that we need to advocate for ourselves. So thank you.
Yes, good. Yes, I do want to help other women for sure.
And that is it for today's episode. Jennifer, thank you so much for the work that you do and for trusting me with this conversation. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you've been pushing off that conversation with your doctor, or you've been told no one too many times, I hope that this is finally what gets you to advocate for yourself. And to all of you who are listening, this is where I have to say the harder part out loud. This is going to be it for a while. I've sat with how to end the show for weeks now, and the truth is there's no version of this that doesn't feel like closing a door on something that I love. But life has pulled me in directions that I have to honor right now, and I'd rather step away with my whole heart still in this than keep going and lose what made it real in the first place. I don't exactly know what comes next. Maybe I'm back in your feed in a few months. Maybe the show finds someone new to carry it. Maybe it's just quiet for a while. But I wanted you to hear it from me plainly because you've given me so much more than I think you realize. Your messages, stories, the way that you let me into your lives every other week, that is not something that I take lightly, and it's not something that I'm walking away from carelessly. So Like I said, this isn't goodbye. It is see you later. But until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and keep growing.